Another cracking Air Force One is coming down the line, and it's an absolute beauty in most places, but there's just this one little area in the shoe. It's three different places that runs through it, but this one little motif that just kind of like to me, but the rest of the shoe is absolutely fire, basically because it's tumbled leather, and I just love a tumbled leather shoe. And usually when you get tumbled leather, it's like one or two panels, but in this guy it's all over the place except the swoosh, which is a bit odd, but we'll get into that today as well. So there's a lot to look at, but it's, the Air Force Ones are all over the place right now. They're doing a ton of different stuff. The experimentals are crazy cool. There's been the fly knit and crater variations going out there as well. It's almost like this year is the 40th anniversary year, but it's not. That's next year. It's 39 years since this guy first hit the market, and it's still that classic silhouette. They do play with it a little bit, like lightning swooshes, which we'll get into today as well. But the basic silhouette stayed the same for 39 years, and it's a beautiful silhouette, and it's a great shoe. And this particular shoe is going to be a joy to bring to you guys. So without further ado, let's get into this and talk about the upcoming release of the Nike Air Force One Aquamarine. This is the Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channelです。毎日アップするので毎日見てください. Every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today in the spotlight is an upcoming release of a Nike Air Force One. Like I said, there have been a ton of them recently, and it's almost like it's some kind of anniversary year. And I hope this doesn't go the way of the Air Jordan 4s, because for me, the Air Jordan 4s is an absolutely classic silhouette. But when they came around for their 30th anniversary year 2 years ago, it was a bit of a dud, if you ask me. They had a lot of stuff in the previous year and then in the following year, but the actual anniversary year, there's only one shoe that I got really interested in, and the rest were just kind of like, kind of average. And I hope the Air Force One doesn't go down that route. I hope that the 40th anniversary next year falls on from this year and just takes off and goes into places that we all want it to go, with the retro stuff, but also the new stuff going forward. So this shoe is a great example of that. What we hope to see next year, some interesting changes, interesting plays on what is a classic silhouette. And for this guy today, it's all about that lightning swoosh. And for me, that lightning swoosh was almost where I stopped and said, I'm not interested, because seriously, I wasn't going to look at this shoe. But then after I got a closer look at it and saw the tumbled leathers on there, and also a close-up look at some of the branding on it, I was like, you know what, there's enough uniqueness in other parts of the shoe, not the lightning swooshes, but in other parts of the shoe, for me to say, yeah, I'm going to bring this one to the channel. So it's not about the lightning swooshes for me, it's about other stuff. But I do want to talk about those lightning swooshes in two particular ways. Particular way number one is the materials that it's made of, because I was super surprised to see these guys are not leather. As far as I can tell, what we're looking at here is some kind of nylon, and that kind of surprised me on an all tumbled leather sneaker that's got really rich materials on there. Putting a non-leather swoosh and a non-tumbled leather swoosh on both sides, it was a bit of a surprise to me, and that's where the Aquamarine colorway comes in on these guys. So having that, the only Aquamarine feature, and it's in a material that's sort of a little bit lower level than the other materials of the shoe, but that's the one part of it. And the other part of it is that lightning element, and I've got to admit, I freely and openly admit, I'm surprised that it's a lightning swoosh. When I looked at this, I just thought it was kind of like a cut that they put in the swoosh, and then sort of disjointed it a little bit, so it was a disjointed swoosh, but right in the middle, and hopefully it shows up well enough here that you can see what I'm talking about. Right in the middle, you can see it isn't sort of a cut, it is definitely a lightning effect that they've gone for in there. So I was kind of surprised to see that. I was expecting it to be some kind of disjointed thing. There's a picture of California trees in an orchard, and they're all lined up straight as can be, but right in the middle of that field is the fault line where earthquakes are, and you can actually see the slip where the rows of trees are sort of out of sync in one particular place, and it's because of the fault line, because of earthquakes. And that's what this is a bit like here, is that swoosh has sort of been disjointed a little bit from the other parts of it. And that is a big sort of story of the shoe for a lot of people. A lot of people are interested in that swoosh, but to be honest, that's what was putting me off. I was kind of like, it's a bit too gimmicky, a bit too jingoistic, if you ask me, so I'm not really interested. But then when I saw those tumbled leathers, and I think if we have a look at the toe, that's a good spot to really see the tumbled leathers, and I was really surprised to see it all the way through the shoe and not just in certain places. When tumbled leathers on a shoe, for example, one of my favorite silhouettes of all time, the Air Jordan 3, often it's just in one part, one section or one panel, and then other parts of the shoe are smooth leathers or patent leathers or something like that. But in the case of these guys, they've gone front to back, like the whole thing in these beautiful tumbled leathers, and like I say, the toe box is a great place to have a look at that. And it's also a great place to look look at that one feature that kind of is like, not so sure about that, the Air Force One. And what I'm talking about is the lime green that's hit in 3 different places of the shoe, and in particular, like, because we're talking about the toe, on the side of the lateral side of the toe there, you can see an embroidered small swoosh, which you usually don't see the front end of Air Force Ones, but it's in that light green, almost yellow. It's hard to put my finger on what color exactly, but it's so light that it fades in to the white behind it a lot. It's really hard to see the distinction between the white toe and that stitched swoosh on the lateral side there. But it does sort of, it doesn't make much sense, that colour in the shoe. That's the thing that's getting me about them, is why didn't they make this aquamarine like the big swoosh? I'm not entirely sure why they'd go with this colour in here on this part of the shoe, but also that runs through the rest of the shoe, and it runs into this the place in the shoe that actually caught my eye more than the lightning swooshes. It was the tongue branding that said to me, I need to get into this shoe and talk to people, because I've never seen Air Force One tongue branding like this. Usually it would be standard, just like you get on just about any Nike shoe, that small piece of branding panel at the top of the tongues, but you can see in these guys it's a really long, thin, black piece of branding on there, and it says 2021, which reminds me of the Jordan 5 wings, the Jordan 5 low wings, which also say class of 2021 on them, because the wings scholarship program is a way of Jordan giving back to help, I think it's high school graduates have a scholarship for university. So I'm wondering if there's a tie-up with this 2021 branding on the tongues of these guys in that Jordan wings initiative over at the Jordan line. So but the tongue branding on there was the real reason why I got into these guys, was because it's so long and thin and so unique on that. And then we push back from that and you get into the insole, which is all black, and again a second hit of that volt yellow or light yellow or lime yellow that matches the swoosh on the toe, and then all the way back around to the heel of these guys, and you see again a third place with that. And it just sort of, I don't know, it's why aren't these places aquamarine? Why aren't they the same as the swoosh? Why not go with that instead of a third color on these guys? All white shoe, lots of hits of aquamarine would be done here. So but instead they've thrown in these little bits of volt yellow, which kind of, I don't know, they don't quite balance right with me. I think they're too close to white and they get lost in the white for me, but not on the heel, because the heel, it's black branding, and I'm pretty sure, and hopefully it's a black branding panel, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to zoom in on it and you'll see the materials it's made of match the rest of the materials on the shoe. And the only other thing I really want to get into is looking down at the branding on the lateral side of the midsole. I always talk about this with Air Force Ones because it's an interesting point. I'll be doing a video very soon about the fresh pack that's coming out, especially the Air Force Ones and the Air Max 90s in that pack, and they have an interesting branding on this point on those Air Force Ones, but we won't look at that. We'll look at this today. On this shoe is all about the white branding on there on the white midsole, so it all fades back in. And I always talk about that because it's an interesting point on the Air Force Ones, whether they do colour that branding on the midsole or not. And in the case of these guys, it's a not today. So and that's a pretty much look at the whole shoe. So you know, I wasn't really thinking about it. As I said, I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into it or not, because I thought that lightning swoosh was a little bit kind of gimmicky for me, but the tongue branding actually was the thing that took me in, and then the tumbled leather on the rest of the shoe all the way around was the thing that kept me in, and decided that this is a shoe that I definitely want to talk to you guys about out there. And like I said, you know, the Air Force Ones, there's been a lot of them in recent times, and I've covered as many of them as I can, but there's so many out there, it's really difficult to catch all of them. And then hopefully it'll be tomorrow's video, the is it the Fresh Air pack, and there's the Daybreaks, the Air Force One Pixel, and the Vapor Max Plus, but I won't be looking at those guys. I'll be looking at the actual Air Force Ones, not the Pixels, and the Air Max 90s, which are two of the really standout shoes in that pack. So something to look forward to that keeps the Air Force One line going forward, and especially look forward to 7 months time when we get into the 40th anniversary year, and we'll see what the silhouette does for that special occasion. But for now, it's time for me to wrap this one up. Thank you guys for checking out the content, and I do truly appreciate the likes, the comments, and everything. And the thing that I most appreciate is that I get to say the same thing at the end of every single video, is that I do this every single day, and because of that, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.